Montana Talks.
Well, it's a good thing we got a guy with a good radio voice in here, and I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about our good friend Rick Halmes here with the upcoming Montana Football Hall of Fame banquet. Rick, good to see you.
Nice to be here this morning.
I enjoy it here. It's like, you know, that Town and Country Supply. I just love to hear your voice on that ad. It's just you just feel like you're in
great
the West.
Great selection, great service, great price.
That's right, yeah. Well, first off, before we talk about the Montana Football Hall of Fame banquet coming up, you're going to have a lot of Montanans who played in the NFL. Some who've seen some time and some Super Bowl action are going to be a part of this Montana Football Hall of Fame banquet. But hey, I can see it. You got a clear selection. You got a clear team you're rooting for in the Super Bowl this Sunday. You got your 49ers hat on. But you didn't just put this on this year for this game, huh?
I was 11 years old in 1960, and I saw the 49ers play the New York Giants that year. The first TV we ever saw up in the country where I was from, because you couldn't get signals where we lived. And the 49ers won, so I thought, okay, I'll be a 49ers fan and have been for almost 60 years.
That's kind of why I've been a Denver Broncos fan. I guess, just growing up in northeastern Montana, that was just kind of the team, for because maybe it was one of the closest ones there. It was, well, you were either one of those Scandinavians that still had to pay homage to the mother country and support the Minnesota Vikings, or you were a Broncos fan, Yeah.
Or now Seattle.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There are a lot of bandwagon Seattle fans out there. Well, our friends in Northwest Montana, they were more of the Seattle Seahawk fans over the years. So with the big game this weekend, of course, there is a Montana connection. Mike Person, Glendive, Montana native, played for Montana State University also. I love that photograph that they share of him on montanasports.com, just covered in mud. He's really paid his dues over the years to get to the big game.
Boy, I think that's a great way to phrase it too, Aaron. What was it, 10 years ago, I guess, when he played at Montana State, had a great career there. But he went to the 49ers first, but then he got traded a number of times, didn't see a lot of action, was in Atlanta when Kyle Shanahan was a coordinator there, and started a lot that year. I don't know how many games he started, but at center, not at guard, not at the tackle position he played in college, but at center. And he had a great year, but then got cut again, wasn't sure what he was going to do, gets picked up by the 49ers, and now the rest is story, and he signs an $8 million contract for a couple of years. But you talk about a guy that just stuck it out, stick and stay and get your pay. I guess he's a symbol of that.
Yeah. So that's going to be fun to watch him. That's what, even though I think this Halmes, the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback, has been really cool to watch. I think there's the Broncos fan in me that can never really root for the Chiefs, but there's a lot of Montana connections to the Kansas City Chiefs over the years too, right?
Well, and especially with our Montana Football Hall of Fame, Chris Horn. I was talking to him yesterday. He's so excited to get up here. I was teasing him about, have you had any more children since I last talked to you? He said, yeah, I think I've had one more. I said, you're building your own football team. I know you are. But a great guy. He'd had one of the most inspirational acceptance speeches, and he was in the first class. He and Tough Harris both. And boy, you left there thinking, holy cow, are we ever privileged to have had these people in Montana?
Yeah.
But Jan Stensrud, he called a couple of days ago he'd canceled a trip to Norway to make sure he could come back to the Montana Football Hall of Fame banquet and support these new inductees. And I think we have 19 of the former inductees coming back.
I was amazed last year.
But Jan's really excited about this weekend because he's one of the top 100 NFL players of all time, and they're going to feature them at the Super Bowl this weekend.
And tell us a little more background on Jan Stensrud for those who might not be familiar with his background, because he is going to be recognized at the Super Bowl as one of the 100 NFL best, right?
Yeah, he is. He told me he's going to a private reception with the commissioner and some other private functions for the top 100, and he and his wife are going to have a big weekend. But, he came over on a skiing scholarship to Montana State in the mid-'60s, and Gene Esplin, who was an assistant basketball coach down there, Roger Kraft, the head coach, were walking through the football field out there and saw him kicking, even a soccer player kicking football. So they go run in to tell Jim Sweeney, the head football coach at the time. Of course, Sweeney doesn't want anything to do with a soccer-style kicker at that time because he didn't know who they were or what they could do. But they finally, a couple of days later, get Sweeney to go out and look at him, and long and the short of it was Jan was in a uniform the next day.
Yeah. Well,
and then he kicks a field goal, to win a game against the Grizzlies. He goes on and has a 17-year NFL career, and most of that with the Chiefs.
Wow, yeah. And, for a guy named Stensrud to cancel a trip to Norway so he can be here for the Montana Football Hall of Fame banquet, that tells you what a big deal this is. I had so much fun at the reception last year, running into some great local supporters, guys like Steve Solberg, who helps put this banquet on along with the Montana Ford guys, and but all the players that were there, I was amazed. Guy Bingham came down from Missoula.
Yep.
Dan Carpenter came all the way down from Plentywood, Montana, a former NFL kicker, and I actually interviewed his wife on the radio the day before. I was up at the Farm Expo in Plentywood, so it was cool to see Dan Carpenter last year. He's actually going to be inducted into the Montana Football Hall of Fame.
He and Bob Beers, Ken Amato from Montana State, still coaching with or just was with the Cowboys since the staff got let go. I don't know if he's going to be hired back there, but he's still in the NFL. Shane Collins down at Bozeman, Steve Okanuski, who was a great player, one of the few I've ever seen as an offensive player at the University of Montana and an All-American, gets to the NFL and he's so tough they move him to defense.
Rick, talk more about some of the inductees that are going to be at this year's Montana Football Hall of Fame banquet.
Well, one of the stories, Aaron, that I'm looking forward to the most is Victor Lindskog was a graduate of Roundup High School in 1932. He and the Kowalskis, for people up in the Roundup area listening to us this morning, they'll remember who they are. And, of course, Ron had that great run as a coach up at Cutbank High School, over 200 wins up there. But Lindskog never played a down of football in Roundup. They send him to Cutbank to box a little bit, work in the oil fields. Gets to be a good boxer. They want him to get more training, so he goes to California. Football coach from Stanford sees him, says, hey, we need to get you in a junior college, learn this game. So he's an All-American at Stanford in 2 years. Gets drafted by the Eagles, spends 2 years in the military, then shows up there like 44. He's all-pro twice. They in 48 and 49 with him as a center. They win the world title twice. He stays in the NFL till 1987, gets 2 Super Bowl rings with the 49ers, and the man never played a down of football in his life in Montana. But he graduates from Roundup High School. I mean, his son and grandkids are coming to tell his story.
Well, that's great. Yeah, and you're also doing some inductions in the supporting category. Brent Musburger, a famous announcer in Billings, Montana guy, of course, well known there too. Travis Lulay, another one of the players that's going to be inducted with former Montana State quarterback as well. So it's just going to be another great event. Excited to see Bob Beers on there. I've gotten to run into
one of the greatest football storytellers I've ever been around.
Is he really?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that'll be fun. Yeah.
And you write about his son.
His son, Bobby Beers, really cool guy. Run into him across town a couple of times.
Didn't he do a fantastic job in the time he was up at Rocky? He just worked his rear end off up there to learn how to do that. Yeah.
You were saying over 260 Montanans have played in the NFL. When you think about how small of a population we are, that's pretty remarkable.
Per capita, near as we can tell, there's only one place in the world, and that's American Samoa, that per capita puts more into the NFL. So, it's an incredible testament to Montana coaches. And that when we started this, that's what we tried to do, our point system when people are nominated. Anybody can nominate any player that's signed a contract in the NFL if they went to a Montana school. Jerry Kramer, for instance, our bylaws would say that we can't induct him. Now, we may change the bylaws. but because he never went to a Montana school, he left Jordan before he ever entered school there. But if you're a Montana high school grad, college grad, NFL, 3 points. If you're a Montana grad, go out of state and then get NFL, 2 points. But if you're from out of state and come to college, 1 point because you missed the Montana coaching.
Interesting. So, interesting scoring category. Well, again, the Montana Football Hall of Fame banquet coming up March 28th. About a minute to go here. Rick Halmes, what would your pitch be to folks, especially here in Billings? We'll share this with our statewide audience down the road here as well, because I know folks all across Montana will want to travel for this event. But for folks here in Billings, what kind of opportunity is this?
Well, let me maybe put it into perspective like this. We started out with 170 that first year as a crowd. We didn't know. We started in August. The football coaches yelled at us, said, you got to move this to spring break because, that's our football season, which is true. So we did. So this, in 4.5 years, this will be our 5th one. But we're in the neighborhood of expecting around 600 at this one. We had just under 500 last year, 300 a year before. But people tell other people about the stories. You're going to hear stuff about Bob Beers that nobody ever knew, and he's a great storyteller. But even Travis Lulay has an interesting backstory to traveling around the NFL for a few years before he went to the CFL.
Yeah.
You'll hear really inspirational stories.
It's an incredible event. There's some characters you're running into too, like our Rocky Cleaver. I don't know if the FCC would allow us to have him on the radio, but he's fun to watch in person. I'll tell you what.
And Marty Morningwig, one of our inductees, thinks it's the biggest football event in Montana.
And a lot of these NFL player guys too from Montana, they say, we don't come here for the accolades. We come here to see our old friends, to see our old buddies. It really is a cool event. Montana Football Hall of Fame banquet, March 28th.